Hi guys, welcome to I.N.T.E.N.T. I'm your host Bronlyn, and today we're going to be speaking with Mr. Moloto. He's
Mm.
an entrepreneur, a father, and a husband. He was from corporate, he moved into entrepreneurship, and now he has a fragrance line. He's going to tell us more about that and also more about his journey into fatherhood. Hi, Mr. Moloto.
Hi, Roland. How are you? Can you hear
I'm good,
me?
and you?
I'm great, thanks. Cannot complain.
We're going to start off with an icebreaker. Use one word to describe you as a father.
Loving.
Sorry. Okay. Okay.
Loving.
Loving full stop.
100%. That's
Okay.
just one word.
Okay. That
Love my
about
daughter.
sums it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
And then
mean, I
one
mean that.
word
I mean,
to describe you as an entrepreneur.
lethal. Did you get that?
Yes. We have loving here and lethal here, opposite ends.
Yes. I mean, there are many more words I could use,
Okay.
but just
Okay.
because
I
it's
guess
one,
balance. We need balance.
yeah, I have to pick one.
Okay. Mm, okay. Can you hear me? Describe or give us a brief background on how you transitioned from corporate into being an entrepreneur, the build up to your current position.
Yeah, so the transition, I think it was like it was by happenstance, but also it's the desire that I've always wanted. So I think growing up, I've always been business minded and looking for opportunities. But I think as I grew older and I went to varsity, um, business for me was like something much more bigger than I could achieve, in my mind. When I was thinking of corporates, I'm thinking of like the likes of PwC or all these big buildings with big branding and stuff like that. For me, that was a business. And I think what always debilitated my efforts to start anything was how will I get there? That was like too intimidating for me. So and then I just did pursue my CA journey there. And I think the most important thing about me and that I like is that I will do exactly what I need to do at the time. So I will do what looks compelling for me at the time. Even if I might have maybe a new desire later on, I will pursue it later on. But I'm not one to do things half-heartedly, looking that I'm gonna be doing something else. Then at the time I wanted to be a CA and I pursued being a CA with all my heart. And then I think towards the end of my articles, I started selling fragrances, and that also happened by happenstance because I just wanted to do something where I could get extra money, because I wasn't getting paid enough money. So
Mm,
and me looking for something I could do in the meantime or as a side hustle, I found myself selling fragrances. But then the joy of selling fragrances and me loving fragrances, or the love that I had, pushed out the desire to continue as a CA for the longest time. So even when I was doing my last year of articles, I always knew that next year, when after qualifying, what I want to do is I want to do this business, So I never found myself applying for a job. My
mm,
my friends were going for interviews with the banks and everything internally, but I was so chilled out. And everybody asked me, what are you going to do next year? And I was like, I intend to push this business. But people thought I was crazy because at the time I was selling from the boot of my car. Was still living in Alex. So like everybody looks at this, they're like, what does this thing do for you? Uh, you're selling these fragrances for 250, 300. Even my colleagues didn't want to buy them because they would look at them with some type of contempt, or they would look down on them. So, but I've always had the faith that this is gonna
Mm,
work out for me. I love it. I'm gonna have more time, and also my background from home. I knew I had to do something that's gonna make me money. So the decision was twofold. Firstly, if I get a job, I need to get a high-paying job, but also as a newly qualified CA, it's highly unlikely that you're gonna get a high-paying job, or I need to get a job
mm,
that is gonna be too chilled that I can still sell fragrances. But I knew that that's not gonna happen because now I'm
mm,
gonna, if I stay in corporate, I'm gonna enter into a manager role, or I'm gonna go into a new job which is gonna be too demanding,
mm,
and then I'm not gonna have time for the side hustle. So that's where the decision came, and I was like, there's
mm,
stuff that I need to do at home. Like my background is not that good. I need to go build a house at home. So if I stick with a job, there's no way I'm gonna
mm,
afford that. But if I push this fragrance business, it might pay off in 5 years. It might become something in 10 years, in 20 years of legacy than me sitting on a computer and
mm,
doing the numbers. Although it's still noble, to do that. There's nothing wrong with sitting on the table and doing cracking the numbers and solving problems. There's nothing wrong with that. Instead, we are called to work as men. So whatever your hands find that you must pursue, I'm not discouraging corporate, but it was what informed the decision making at the time. So I transitioned, but it was a hard transition because also you're not confident to tell people that this is what I'm gonna do. Um, full time, because even my parents would look at, my family would look at me and be like, what are you doing? You qualified as a CA, like being a CA is just like that fancy thing, a fancy career. You just
yeah,
qualified as CA. What do you mean you're gonna sell these fragrances now? So I had to keep it with my wife, who was my
wow.
girlfriend then. She's the only one who knew, and a couple of my friends. But yeah, and that's how the transition came about. And then yeah.
Okay, okay. So you just persevered and believed in yourself because, as you were saying,
Yeah,
you come from very humble beginnings and you knew
yes,
the responsibility that comes with that. But
100%. Yeah,
because you knew that you need to believe in yourself enough for your dream to become a reality. Hence, you
yep,
are here today, fully an entrepreneur.
yes,
So
100%.
very inspiring. I
Mm,
know not a lot of people that go down the entrepreneur route from corporate or from whatever job they're doing into becoming an entrepreneur ends up with a story like yours. A lot of people where they're like, oh my gosh, things are going downhill. I need to backtrack and, go back
yeah.
to a 9 to 5 or a job with a stable income. Um, so
Security.
so with you, it's just all about persevering, um, and using your background to your advantage. Coming from humble
100%.
beginnings often propels you to believe in yourself even more and work smarter and I don't want to say harder because harder doesn't always lead to success, but in a smarter way,
Mm,
the best way you know
yes,
how that's going to work for
yeah,
you. And the fact
100%.
that you are qualified CA, which also
Yeah,
gives you an upper hand in terms of the numbers,
it does. There
having
is a
that
great
background.
advantage.
Um,
Yeah,
in terms of your journey to becoming an entrepreneur, how is
yeah.
that how has that changed your perspective in terms of becoming a father? How has that influenced your fatherhood journey?
Mm, I think becoming an entrepreneur, I don't think there's a direct correlation. So I think fatherhood and work, whatever vocational work you find yourself in, whether you're an entrepreneur or you are um, an employee or whatever you do, self-employed, whatever you find yourself, those are not competing callings. callings that are necessarily correlated. There is a relationship between the two, but you are called to be a father and you are called to work. For example, if you go back to the beginning of time, Genesis, Adam and Eve were told to work the ground, to subdue it, and to dominate. That is work, vocational work. But in the same breath, they were also given a mandate to be fruitful and multiply. So the two are complementing each other, so and they can coexist. So how it influenced me, it's I've always wanted to be, for example, when I met my wife, when I say she was then my girlfriend, she was like, we were 2 months dating when I made the decision to leave work, so it was like something very new. But I've by then I had already had the money for Lobola
Mm,
saved up, so I knew that I've this journey that I'm taking, I need to work, but I also need to be a father and be a husband, to someone, because it was not good for a man to be alone, and hence the Lord made him a suitable helper. So I knew that I needed to find a helper, but that also came natural because it's a natural inclination when you're around that age to find a partner. But also when I was thinking about my future, I've always thought of like having kids and stuff like that, if the Lord permits. So yeah, the two have always complemented each other. They were, but I don't think there was a direct correlation. And so, but if you were to ask how does fatherhood impact how I I work now or my entrepreneurial journey, that's a different question. And I would say that it helps me provide.
mm,
I work in a way that my daughter needs to know that my father works hard, and he's an able man who can work and provide, but also I need to make it in a way that she doesn't see me idolizing work, because everything that I do now, she's not going to remember. She's not going to remember that I launched a particular fragrance
yeah.
in 2026. I launched 4 stores in 2027 or whatever. I had these many people employed and all of those things. She's going to remember the moments that I'm sharing with her, me teaching her how to read, um, teaching her how to pray,
Mm,
um teaching her whatever I'm teaching her, taking walks with her, obeying the Lord in front of her, loving my wife in a way that she's gonna see that my dad
mm,
is loving. She needs to see this worshiper in me. So those are the things that she's gonna remember at the end of the day. Say I were to die when she's 20, she's not gonna be obsessed with, I hope she's not going to be obsessed with, oh, my dad built niche and blah 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 and all of those things. So I need to make it in a way that I
mm,
love her, but I also work hard. So I hope that makes sense.
mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Does it make sense?
mm. It does.
Yeah.
It does make sense. It does make sense. Where your daughter has more of an influence on
Mm,
um on you as an entrepreneur than the other way around, which makes a lot of sense because, as you said in the beginning, in terms of you being an entrepreneur, you are lethal. In terms of you being a father, you are loving. Um,
yes.
so yeah, yeah, it makes sense how she would influence your work, where she brings
Mm,
a softness to you, where it's not, you know, so so harsh. So she softens you
yeah.
up a bit, which is a good thing. I mean, in business, you have to be quite strict and firm, but you also have to be understanding and have that kindness and loving aspect when need be.
Yes. Yes.
So, in terms
100%.
of you being a father, you being a businessman, yes, a husband, um, how do you find the work-home balance? Because work can be quite demanding. Being a husband and a father is quite demanding. So, how do you find that balance if you ever do at this point in your life?
um so you have, so I there's this thing by John Piper. He says God is most glorified in us when we are most satisfied in him. So, and being more satisfied in him is you
Mm,
doing what he has intended your life to be like and him doing what needs to be done. For example, there are too many proverbs. So there's my favorite proverbs is Proverbs 22:29, which says, "Do you see a man skillful in his labor? He will stand before kings and not before obscure men." So it's basically saying that if you see a man skillful in his labor, that skillful has origins of diligent in his labor.
Mm.
He will stand before kings. He will be honored and not before obscure men. So he will not be ashamed. So it's tied to diligence, to premium work, to beautiful work, to craftsmanship. And another proverbs also says that the plan of the diligent leads to abundance, or the plans of the diligent. So if you work diligently, that will
Mm.
lead to abundance. It might not come as abundance of wealth, like in monetary value, but it can come in um, many ways. So note that you're not chasing abundance, you're chasing diligence, and that diligence may result in work. And then there's another proverb again that says that the hands of the lazy brings poverty, but the diligent hands brings wealth. So I like Proverbs so much
Mm.
because it reminds us of those truth. So you need to know that you when you work hard, it will bring those benefits. But then work shouldn't be worshipped. You must work as one that is working
Mm.
for the Lord according to Colossians. And then now the problem comes in if I'm gonna glorify or worship the work that I do, because my daughter is gonna be impacted. She's gonna get an idol, or an idolatrous father who worships what he does. And if what I do is not going well, then that also filters into the family, how my wife receives me and how my child receives me. So I need to make sure that
Mm.
in all that I'm doing everything to the glory of God. And then when I'm worshiping, I mean, when I'm fathering my child also, I shouldn't father her in an idolatrous manner where she's gonna see me as an idol, or I'm gonna see this vocation of fathering as an idol as well. I need to know that I have been given a heritage,
Mm.
as the scripture says that children are a gift from the Lord, a heritage for the parents. So I need to know that, okay, Shap, this thing that I'm doing here is stewardship. It's me enjoying the heritage. It's a gift from the Lord. So I need to worship the giver rather than the gift itself. So if I balance the two, then I think the family structure will go well, because now I have work that I'm not worshiping, but I'm working as though I'm working from the Lord. But I also have this gift, and I'm worshiping the giver rather than the
Mm.
gift. So I think yeah, the family structure will be there.
Mm.
But in terms of how it plays out, I think it's a matter of wisdom, and also knowing the seasons, because there could come a season that's too demanding where I need to focus more at work and I might not have enough time to um give maybe to my family.
Mm.
But it needs to be something seasonal, not something continuous. Let's say it's December, it's Black Friday and whatever. I know that now I need to lock in and push, and my family needs to understand that
Mm.
I can, I need that needs to be communicated so that they can show some grace. um but yeah, I think it's a also I people should learn not to pursue these things so much that they lose themselves in the process. You could pursue business and money and success in a way that compromises
Mm.
the quality of the family, and you've seen too many people making decisions around financial gains rather than family stability, and that's also dangerous. So there needs to be a great
Mm.
complements between the two things, but ultimately you should be glorifying God in pursuing the two.
Mm. Mm. So following God's guidance. will
Yes,
ultimately lead
100%.
you to that
Yeah.
balance depending on the season you're in. But of course,
Yes, because
also
yeah.
using the skills God has given us to communicate to our families, to the employees, to the important
Mm.
people or the necessary people in our lives. But
Yeah,
yes, it's very important to pay attention to the seasons in your life and how God is
100%.
communicating your next
Yeah.
your next move.
Yeah,
Is
you
very
need
important.
to be
But what
aware.
is most important is also having that awareness and also having people around you that understand the seasons that you are in order to help
Yeah.
guide you. Because God places
Mm.
certain people in our lives to also carry us through. Because we're
Yep.
not going to know it all. We may see the guidance and the closed doors we might not understand, and certain open doors we might be hesitant. So sometimes it's good, not sometimes, it's always good to have people in your corner um, that
True.
also are there to support you in ways that you cannot see or you don't understand.
Yes, that's
Um,
true.
so in terms of, so you spoke about, listening to God's voice, in terms of, guiding you and protecting you. So as you are today, your expectations of being a father and being an entrepreneur, um, has it is this what you expected? The
Mm.
reality of how things played out, or are there certain things that caught you off guard? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely there are things for so I when it was just me and my wife before we had the baby, I think I could work longer hours and like be more effective and all of those things.
Mm,
But now I understand that there is a person in our midst, a little person that needs care, teaching the truth, taking care of, and
mm,
correcting, instructing, and raising up in the ways of the Lord. So that also needs time. So the thing that has been impacted now is time. So, and I think when she was newly born, like a period of 3 months, 4 months, I thought to myself, maybe I'm not so productive anymore. There's something wrong with me and stuff like that. But I didn't realize that I don't have the luxury of time anymore that I
mm,
had. Because now, if my work, if I've so recently, like this year, my wife started working again. So if she wakes up at 8 and goes to work, I need to stay and wait for our helper to come. And then so now I can't wake up in the morning and work or things like that.
mm,
So I need to take care of the baby until the helper comes. And then when the helper comes, I can prepare myself and go to work. But also the helper leaves at 5 p.m. If my wife is not back, I need to be back um, earlier. So it seems like I have shorter days now. So the adjustment that I needed to do was that I don't have luxury of playing around with the little time that I have. I need to use it optimally and in the most efficient way. Prioritize things that needs to be prioritized, and where I don't need myself, I just need to deduct myself. If I could hire more people to do the work that is less I think, okay, let me know. Work is all rewarding, but let me say the one that doesn't need me too much, I'll employ people for that so that I have more time. I can focus on family and also focus at work. So I think if you don't do that adjustment, the output of what you put in will diminish because you're now not as effective or efficient as you used to be. So you need to know and be aware of
mm,
that mentally, and prepare yourself and come up with a strategy of what am I going to do. So for the longest time after I had a child, I suffered the thing of I'm not productive, I'm not pushing too much and stuff like that. But also there's an element of getting tired. So you get tired at work, and when you come back, the baby's there, so but it's all joy in that, and I'm glad that my
mm,
wife is here. She helps a lot, and we also have a helper that helps a lot, and we thank her very much because she is a gift from the Lord, because she helps with the most important person in our lives, which is our daughter. So
mm,
yeah. there is that slow down. Yeah, and I think people don't realize that. I've heard a lot of people say that when you have children, you have new level of drive. Yes, that level of drive, it's something that exists, but can you carry it out without compromising the family structure? It's another question, you know. Um, because I can tell you,
Mm.
even before my wife came into the picture, I can tell you I worked harder than I worked when she came into my picture, into my life, But not, and that's because I was single. I didn't have anyone to worry about. I was just doing a life alone, so I could work the way I wanted to. But when she comes to my life and she becomes my wife, I now know that I need to also give this person time and focus on her, and she must compliment me. We complement each other, live together, do life together. I'm no longer single. I can't come back at home at 10 or at 9 or whatever working. I need to be home at a particular time and give him my attention. So when a child comes into your lives, there's also that added somebody to take care of. So your output wherever diminishes. So there's a book that I love. It's called The Art of Productivity. So it talks about the art of plotting, doing things
Mm.
step by step approach, uh, small, as the Niger boys will say. Uh, so and there's a section where it talks about the art of employing man hour. So you need to find the right people that can do the work for you. That's also wisdom, because I can't do this myself anymore.
Mm.
So let me get people who are gonna do this anymore, so that work is not compromised, the goal is not compromised, but also family is not compromised. Um, that's ideal, but is it
Mm.
a reality? I'll say I'm working towards that 100%. So it's a struggle sometimes to find people that you can employ. So sometimes you'll struggle there
Mm.
and there. I don't want to sound like I've got everything figured out. I don't. I just know that this should happen. But is it
Yeah.
happening? I'm saying I'm working towards that.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Mm,
Okay. So it goes back to what we were speaking about earlier. Um, Acknowledging and being aware of the season that
mm,
you are in.
yeah.
Just like
Mm,
how you spoke about before your wife, you had all the time in the world. And then when you got married, that reduced. Now you have a child, that reduced. And yeah, just taking advantage of the time you have in that season. That's why it's so important to be aware of the season you're in. And if you're not aware, if you don't understand, to also pray about it, to speak
mm,
to the people that you confide in. As you were speaking about, the fact that, your wife is a blessing, your child is a blessing, your helper is a blessing. Having people you
yes.
can depend on within your business so that you can have more time with your family is a blessing. So
Yep.
also the people in our lives play an extremely important role in us being successful in whichever way we want to, or whichever way God ordained us to be. So
Mm,
acknowledging the season you are in and taking full advantage is very important because you might never get that season back. Seasons are
yeah.
brought for a reason, for a purpose, and just what you said is evident of that. Even the season that you're in
Mm,
now, you may think that, oh my gosh, I have limited time, I need more people to assist me here and then, but you don't know what God has in store for you, how you're going to transition to a point where you're going to be like, oh my gosh, back then I actually had
mm,
much more time than I realized. So it's just
yep.
about
Yes.
also planning, being diligent,
Yeah.
as you said, being diligent, and then the abundance will come. So
100%.
yeah, you really also spoke to me in terms of just seeing the season you're in as a blessing, because somebody else
Mm,
definitely does see it as a blessing, no matter what's going
yeah.
on in your life. So you spoke a lot about your support structure.
Mm.
Um, so how do you maintain it? How did you build it to the point where you are now? where, you have, I don't want to say enough time, but you do have time, for your family, for your business, for, the external people in your life. Yeah, what other forms of support do you have besides the ones that you spoke about that assist you as a business person and as a father and a husband?
Yeah, so I have two I have friends, brothers
So I
from
know one is God.
you know, one is God. Pardon?
Yeah, because you spoke about God a lot in terms of spirituality. I'm saying in terms of
Yeah,
spirituality, I know that God is
one is
one in terms of, divinely guiding you. But what
yeah.
are the others like in terms of emotional support, physical support? I think you did speak about physical support, um, psychological support. Like, what are your avenues?
Yeah, I think mostly it's the Lord, from a physical perspective, and also He's provided good and sensible friends with good heads over their shoulders. My wife is a great support. They help my family. So it's a combination of a lot of people, Yeah, I've got friends, brothers from church that I hold dear to my heart. They are so good to me. We are good to each other. We do life together. We meet on a monthly basis, at one Saturday a month, where it's just a group of men, or sometimes we are over 10 men. We enjoy whiskey, cigars, and some wine there, and then we will have heart-to-heart conversations and deeply pray for one another. And then we um check up on one another throughout the weeks, and yeah, it's just like good relationships with good people. That's helpful, and yeah, I can my wife is also very important in that. She helps me, she understands, she's has
Mm,
input in the business. When I'm overwhelmed, she takes over some tasks. So, and also the baby is just she makes us happy. It's like I remember some early this year, I had problems with my containers where SARS had detained my containers, and that was a stressful period for me in years. I don't remember being that stressed in so many years. I think the last time I was that stressed was maybe when I was getting rocked by the course in varsity. Yeah, and then well, like I would be
mm,
super stressed. But when I come back home and this little one, like she's laughing or she's saying whatever, she's like hearing her little voice gave me so much joy and relief. So that's beautiful. And those are the
mm,
things that the Lord puts in our lives to give us comfort and strength and support.
mm,
Mm,
mm, mm. So the little one definitely grounds you. She
oof, man.
definitely is also an emotional support, just like with your wife, but in a different way.
Yeah.
So in terms of the season that you are in, um, the little one is very, very important
Mm,
because of the amount of work that you're doing now in terms of the business and the stress. When you get home, it's like, oh my gosh, you can't even shout at the
mm.
little one. You like
It's,
it's just
mm,
happiness, just joy.
it's just happiness.
It's
That,
just relief.
yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, like my
Mm,
problems. Yes, my problems
yeah. I
aren't that
used,
big, and I'm doing it all for
yeah.
you guys at the end of
Um,
the day.
I used to think it was a cliche when
Mm,
social media people would say these little people are bundles of joy. I was just thinking, oh, bundle of joy. Like I never truly conceptualized it or processed what they mean when they say bundle of joy. But now I see that this person is a bundle of joy.
mm.
Hmm.
Mm, mm. No, no, definitely, definitely.
Yeah.
So it does create that balance in terms of you being lethal and you being extremely soft.
Loving.
You do get
Yeah.
to have that balance. During the day when you're out there, you're like, let's get it in.
Yeah.
And
I'm a
then when you
lion.
get home, it's like, okay, let's just relax.
Yes.
Yes, you get to just relax, which is very necessary. You know, we can't always be in like fence mode and work mode. It takes a toll on the body. So the fact that you
Mm.
get to, just be in peace. And then we also can't always be relaxed. I mean, things have to get going. So we
Yep.
do need that balance, whichever way we get it in a healthy way. And yeah, I just highlighted what you were saying in terms of how, your work life balance may be emotionally, which is
Yeah.
very important. So, what do you hope that your kids would learn from your career choice so far?
Mm. So I think I want my daughter to be free in terms of decision making. I think as parents, I could be now. We planning, we
Mm,
hope to get more kids in the future, if the Lord permits. But there is an element
mm,
of aspiration for my child or for my children to take over this great empire that I'm building. If it'll
mm,
still exist, then
mm,
life is full of possibilities. But I'm hopeful, and but they might choose that
mm,
whatever they want to do. She might choose to be a musician or whatever. But I also want to afford them the life that we never had, and that privileged kids have. Privileged kids can just choose to do
mm.
dramatic arts or do whatever, like I want to be a musician or I want to do whatever. I think from my perspective, when I grew up, I knew that I needed to be something, like that will bring me the money like that. I want to be a CA, or I want to be an architect or an economist. Um, some people, like, we are forced to choose, not necessarily because of what we love. So I wanted to choose whatever she wants to choose, to have that liberty and not be forced to come work at Niche or to pursue the business that I'm pursuing. If all my kids don't choose that, then we'll see what we can do.
Thank you, Mr. Moloto, for those wise words um, about, having the courage to take a risk and also believe in yourself, that you can achieve whatever you want to achieve. And also you highlighted the importance of acknowledging and being aware of the seasons that are in our lives and also the people that we allow to be in our lives, which play a significant role in the direction and the path we are on. So thank you so much for being on the platform, and you're welcome, and sharing your fatherhood journey and your entrepreneurial journey. It is a delight speaking to you and having this conversation. I also wish you all the best in terms of your future and your current business ventures. Thank you to the listeners also for listening to this episode of Intent. And until next time, let's keep living with intent. Goodbye.